Welcome to another episode of MJ's Progress Not Perfection. This guest is Tori. Tori has had 17-year drug addiction. She's doing amazing now. She's working on a lot of things. Today is actually when she's getting off probation and she'll be able to finally get her certification and be able to help other people in counseling, which is amazing. She's been waiting for this day for a long time, so congratulations, Tori, on that. And her before and after picture is unbelievable. That's what caught my attention. I'll pop it up here as we get into this episode because, she is just doing amazing things and her story is unbelievable and she's doing great now. So I was really happy to get a chance to talk to her, and now I can get a chance to have her tell her story for everybody. All right.
Okay.
So, yeah, welcome to the show, Tori. I appreciate you taking the time. How much, what's your clean day, Tori?
Clean date?
Yeah.
It was December of 2019.
December 2019. And how long were you in active addiction?
Oh my God. 17 years.
What made you decide to finally, we'll get into the addiction part. I'm just curious, what made you to finally decide to get clean after 17 years?
Let's see, I've tried numerous times. I've been in 8 treatment facilities. Actually what made me get clean is my child. I was pregnant with my son and I had just got out of treatment and I had 8 months clean and found out that I was pregnant. I had overdosed and actually the first time in 16 years that I was actually using the heroin that I had ever overdosed was the last time I used it, and I was pregnant with my son. So I think my husband said I was going for maybe 8 minutes or so. So whenever, I did come to and I went to the hospital on my own. Whenever they told me that the baby was fine, that's when I decided, to put it down, completely done. After I knew that there was still a heartbeat and that he was doing fine, I was just done. That was my breaking point.
That's amazing. Was your husband in it with you or just supportive and just to make sure you were safe?
No, my husband, actually, we've been married going on almost 17 years now, and he's an addict just as well. We've pretty much our whole relationship, we have just used together.
Mm-hmm.
So actually the same night he was using as well. But lucky me, I'm the one that got the worst part of it. But thank God he was there because of course how it goes. Everybody else just runs out on you.
Yeah, I mean that's why we always we harp on harm reduction, and not using alone and stuff like that. Make sure you have Narcan. Make sure you don't use alone. Make sure you're with somebody you trust, because people are going to use, out there. People who are out there still using, they're going to still get high. So if they're going to get high, at least give them some Narcan, at least give them some Vice, at least give them some water. Make sure they're not getting high alone, because that's even more dangerous than getting high is getting high alone. Because then if you go out, who's going to save you?
Yes,
Luckily your husband was there,
most definitely. Because of course, being in a trap house, there's probably, I don't know, 8, 9 of us there, and a lot of them had federal warrants, so no one was sticking.
No, yeah.
It was my husband and actually his friend that stayed behind, because honestly, if it wasn't for his friend being there, my husband was freaked out, didn't know what to do. If it actually wasn't for his friend actually staying there, then yeah, I probably wouldn't be here, nor my child.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean everything happens for a reason. We know that. How did you get into, drugs in the first place? 17, what brought you into it? What did you start
Um,
with?
when I was 15, I took a pain pill for the first time. Had a real bad toothache and took a pain pill. And then from there, my dad has a lot of issues, like cirrhosis of the liver, just all kinds of stuff going on. So he had pain medication. So I would sneak in there and take it. And then I started realizing that you could sell it. And it's really crazy because I was in law enforcement program in school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what my career was. That's what I wanted, but it did not go that way. Um, but yeah, I started taking pain pills and then realizing, that I could sell them and make money. So then, going to school, I started, talking to the crowd that, was doing all the, drugs, and then realizing, well, I can sell this and get this. So then it just, went from Vicodin, then it went to the Percocet, and then that's when the oxys came in. So I definitely started out on pain pills, and my God, that was probably 10 years.
When you
That
say oxys, I'm always curious because like my drug of choice was the Roxys. The entire time I did a decade straight of the Roxy 30s. What did you mean, Oxycontin or
uh,
oxycodone?
okay, so it went from like Vicodin, the Percocet, and then it went to actual Oxycontin. I was like taking, oh my God, probably 4 or 5 Oxy 80s a day. Um, and then that's, when the whole Florida thing came in, and then I was going back and forth, um, doing that for like 5 years. So then
Like
I was
driving
on
to
the,
Florida?
yes, and
Where
back. And
and where are
then
you from again?
I'm
Just
from
for the
Ohio
So you were driving from Ohio to Florida to
to
go to the
Florida,
pain management places?
at least 6 times a month.
Wow, that
Yes.
so you are the first person that has so far, like, when in the last 3 years of my addiction, I would drive to Jersey and back from Lancaster County in PA to pick up. I would go 4 or 5 times a week, 2 hours each way to do those drives. But I mean, you're talking Ohio to Florida, and I don't even know what part of Florida. I'm ballparking at least a 20-some-hour drive each way.
Yes, it was 22. Boca Raton.
Because you're not
Um,
stopping. There's no stopping once there's no like we need a break. We need to go to Florida.
yeah, it was a straight drive through. I
Yeah.
mean, other than, fueling up or, whatever. Yeah, it was. We would go to Boca, Orlando, Miami, Jacksonville. So yeah, we would, because after one would get shut down, we'd go to the next. One shut down, we just move on to the next. It was to the point that when they started trying to shut it down, we actually had to go rent a place down there just to have an address. So we went and rented a place, turned the bills on, got an ID, just so we could continue that.
And
Because
this
coming
was
back to Ohio, my God, well, back in the day, it was like, $25 for, each one. But then
Yep.
towards the end, it started going up to like 30 and 35. So it was
You're
just too
talking about
easy
the
not to
80s,
do it.
right? The
Oh,
80s,
no, I'm talking about the
the 30s.
Roxy 30s.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Because when I started with them in like 2008, and around us they were like $20 a pop, and then eventually they got up to over $30 by the time I was done. Like in 2018, that was the last time I bought one, and they were like dollar per milligram. I thought you meant the 80s at first, because the 80s they got up to $80 a piece around us. Like when the gel ones came out, that's probably when you switched to the 30s, right? When the gel ones came out, and then no one wanted them anymore.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yep, that was like 2009, 2010, if I'm not mistaken. But when those gel ones came out, when you found the coating ones from the Oxycontins, they were like $1 a milligram. People were paying 80 for 80s,
Um,
around Jersey.
Here it was going $2 a milligram. You were paying 160 for 80 milligram.
Only for the ones that had the coating on it that you could scratch off, and not the gel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say
no,
the gel
not the
ones were
gel.
cheap as shit. Yeah, they were like, I still bought the gel ones when I couldn't get Roxy's, and I would use them to like taper. You know what I mean? Instead of taking a Suboxone, I had a connection that had 20 milligram oxys, and they were the gel ones, and I would pick them up for like $5, $10 a pop, and just eat them, knowing it was extended release, and knowing that I was getting something in my body to hold off until I got more Roxys. So like that's what the gel ones were only good for me. They were like another version of Suboxone for me, because I wasn't using Suboxone to quit. I was using Suboxone to hold off until the next one.
Yeah, been there, done that. Most definitely.
And in Florida, the one guy from Wolf of Wall Street, in real life, he opened one of those places. Like in the movie Wolf of Wall Street, with Leonardo DiCaprio and everything, and he's all on drugs the entire movie. His partner, who Jonah Hill plays in that movie, in real life, it's a true story. He moved to Florida and he opened one of those places that you were going to. For all you know, you could have even went to one of his places back then, because that's when he was down there running those things.
Yeah,
So
I have never seen that movie.
Oh, really? I know a lot of people. Yeah, it's one of those things. Probably don't want to watch it now because there's a lot of triggers in there. Um, Now, what was the first time you tried to go to treatment? I mean, you said it'd been to 8 different ones. Like,
Oh, my first treatment center was in 2011. And I went down to it was in Athens, Ohio. I completed it. It was well, technically it's supposed to be a 3 month, and I ended up making it a 5 month. Kept getting in trouble and wasn't trying to actually straighten up. I got forced to go pretty much.
who asked you to go?
My probation officer.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they now. So we skimmed over that. That was that the first time you got arrested for something that was drug related?
Yes, my first charge I had it was for forgery and theft. And honestly, like, I know everybody says this, but like, honestly, like, I really did not do anything wrong. Pretty much what it amounts to is um, it was my husband's aunt, and I was supposed to go get pills, bring them back to her, and I did. Well, then we went again to get more and got robbed. And because I wasn't paying her back fast enough, like she made up like this whole big ordeal and like made a video like outside of Walmart because she knew that they had security cameras. Like had her daughter actually like put a hoodie on and say it was me, and said I got in her car and took her checkbook and her ATM card. And of course, like she's in there really well with the cops. So I just took it on the chin, like, whatever.
Yeah.
But they were doing in lieu of, so I didn't have to actually worry about it being on my record. But that's back during the Florida time. I wasn't worried about that. It was like my appointment was the same day of court. So go to Florida and get my pills or go to court and be sick and have to reschedule. So I pretty much ditched court and went on down to Florida.
Did you stay down in Florida for a little bit, knowing that they were going to be waiting for you in Ohio?
No, I came right back.
Did you? You just said, fuck it, at least I'll be high.
Yeah,
At least
pretty
I'll have
much.
my shit. At least
Pretty
I'll have my
it
shit.
yeah, it took like a week and they were doing a sweep and they got me in it.
So how many were you coming back with? Like if you were going there like that often, 6 times, like 4 to 6 times, like you were going like once a week, twice, sometimes twice in a week. It sounds like
Yes, and also at that time I was hitting a Tennessee doctor and a Columbus doctor.
because it wasn't
So,
until like 2013 to when the pharmacies started talking to each other to where you couldn't doctor shop anymore.
yeah, when they started doing the ors, yeah,
Yeah.
we were getting between me and my husband and then everybody we took, we was getting like 1,830s a month. It was like 1,830s. I think it was like close to like 1,500 15s. And then, of course, the Xanax bars and the Somas.
Holy shit.
Yes,
That that is a number. Like I,
it was insane.
and I was going to ask, oh, I wonder when she got into heroin. You didn't need to get into heroin right away when you're getting that many. I mean, were you a popper or a sniffer or did you, I'm always curious about the rituals.
I started out snorting, and then I got to where I was shooting.
Shoot in the 30s?
Yes.
Oh, damn. Okay. I know. Yeah, I never. Yeah, I got so addicted to the actual act of sniffing itself that I never did anything else for 10 years because I loved, the sensation of sniffing. So I think I got lucky because if I would have like explored elsewhere, who knows how my addiction would have run from there. Because I mean, I was a 20-year drinker and a 10-year user. So, but I never wanted anything else because I loved the taste of, the blues so much that that's all I ever wanted to do was sniff them. So I think I got lucky that part of my addiction itself was actual sniffing and also the pills, but the ritual. Now, how did you and your husband meet? Was it like because you knew each other, or was it from drugs, like a drug interaction?
Actually, it's whenever I started working. I had just turned 18 and I had got a job where he was at. And at that point, like I was just like dabbling in the little, like just the little pain pills.
Yeah.
And like I actually had a boyfriend at the time. And he had got me into the oxys. Well, I was trying to like, when I got this job, like, I was trying to come completely off, like, I didn't wanna take nothing no more, I was done, and, the guy that I was with at the time, he just kept doing it and kept doing it. So, I was at work one day, and because me and him worked at the same place, me and my ex got a job there together. Well, my husband was working there, and my husband, he is, definitely a smooth talker, um and pretty much, like, me and him just started talking, and he did some crazy stuff about work. Um, was I was talking to him and telling him, like, I've been in addiction since I was 15, pretty much I'm done, I don't wanna do it no more, but the guy I'm with, he continues to do it. So my husband just, like, pulled a quick move and, busted, the guy out, that was what I mean? Because I just had the type of person not to cheat. I didn't wanna
Yeah,
do that. I wanna do
yeah,
a clean break.
yeah,
Well, I was having a hard time, doing it 'cause I didn't wanna hurt nobody's feelings, and so pretty much my husband went and did it for me. He come back and said, "Hey, you're that dude you're with buying, pain pills," and I'm like, "Well, how do you know?" He said, "Well, because I'm the one selling them to him." He says, "You wanna get away from it and you can't, then I'm gonna help you." So, that's how that happened,
yeah.
and I met my
Okay.
husband, and from right then and there on there, like, we hit it off.
Mhm.
Um, and then, like, I don't know, like, we're really super close, so it's just pretty much like whatever one does, the other does, you know what I mean? We're very codependent, if you wanna call it that. We're very
Well, it's
codependent.
not even that. I mean, and nothing even wrong. The thing is, like anything else, codependency is only an issue when it makes your life unmanageable. You know what I mean? If your life is unmanageable because like it was, it might not be now because now you're sober so you can actually communicate easier and your life isn't revolving around the drugs and the alcohol or whatever. So, but in my opinion, in sobriety at least, being codependent is just having a partner. You're just having a strong relationship because you're open and honest in it. The only time it would be an issue is if your life's unmanageable, like oh, I can't come to work today because my husband doesn't want me to. He needs me to stay home with him because he's in a bad mood. Then that would be a problem because then, your life would be unmanageable because you're missing work when it's not even an emergency. He just is needy. Then I would say it's an issue. But I mean, codependent, I mean, you're just together all the time. Maybe I'm just being, I'm deflecting or being because my wife and I work together, and we're together, 22 hours a day easily, so maybe I'm just like being defensive. But I don't think it's you can I think you can be codependent in a healthy way is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Like
and that's really pretty much how it is, like, in addiction, we were each other's worst downfall. Like,
exactly.
we were
Yes.
each other's downfall, like, so bad, like, it was to a fault.
Like you went 17 years because you kept enabling each other to continue to go
Yes.
17 years. Like if you
Yes.
were alone, you probably wouldn't have lasted 17 years and same with him. But
No, I
when you
wouldn't.
Yeah, but when you have somebody else that's like supporting you still and saying, "Hey, I still love you no matter what," that gives you a reason to keep going. It gives you hope to keep going. That well, at least he loves me. Because a lot of people don't understand. And I'm not trying to be rude. When I say junkie love, but they don't understand because that's what it originally comes out to. Like in the beginning, it's like we're gonna do this thing together, and then when you're still together in sobriety, that really shows you everything you need to know about the relationship. Um, because I'm just taking a shot in the dark. He's sober too.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
You're the second couple actually that I've talked to. In my fourth episode is this girl Tara, and her husband they met, really young. They got high together for a really long time, like to the point where they robbed a bank together in Texas and then drove all the way back up to Massachusetts together to go school her. Like he rescued her from a rehab in Texas, and then he robbed the bank, and then they drove to go get high. So I mean, and he did time for that, and she did time, but they've been married still years, and they're together still to this day. So and they're like pushing 40. Well, he's definitely in his 40s because he's 10 years older than her, and they have a great relationship, and it's so there. I know that it's possible, and that you can like transfer over that love from from when you're getting high to when you're sober. A lot it doesn't work for everybody, but if you can make it work, that's even better. I'm sure having the kid help too because and how old your kid too then, right?
Yes, too, and we have a 12-year-old, and we got another one on the way.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. I'll tell you what, like, everybody here that knows us, that's what our nickname was, Bonnie and Clyde. If he did something, I'm going to be right beside him. Like, we go to a bar, there's a bar fight. If there's dudes, I don't care. I'm jumping in with him. You know what I mean? That's like, that's what everybody calls us, is Bonnie and Clyde. And everybody's so used to us doing the bad stuff together. But now that they see us sober and doing all the good stuff together, they're like, wow, I cannot even believe, you know what I mean? Like, all the stuff that you've been through, that you're even still together. And then that's like a lot of people here at home, like they always tell us, like, you give us hope. You know how they say, like, in treatment, like, if you're together and you're using, pretty much you can't be together afterwards. Well,
Hmm.
I mean, I do I don't know, I believe that to an extent, but then again, I think it really comes down to, like, how much do you want it, how much do you want it together? Because we can either bring each other up, or we could definitely tear each other down.
Yeah. Like if he would have went to rehab, you know how that you've been at plenty of treatment centers. When you're going to rehab because he's saying you need to go there now, and I'm fine, but you need to go there, you're gonna feel like you don't need to be there. You don't want to be there, that's for sure. But when you both get to the point where like, all right, I just want to be done, and that's the key word is want. I want to be done. I don't need to be in rehab. I don't need to do this. I don't need you to send me. I want to be done. Because when you want to be done is when you really start putting in an honest effort to be done. Did you guys start hitting meetings together, or what did you do to like change your like every day going to get higher? And I'm sure you're saving a ton on gas.
Yeah. Well, how it pretty much really how it started was, see, I've been to, like I said, 8 treatment centers. He's only been to 2. And really what it amounted to is, like, when we get in trouble, like, he has an extensive history. I think he's racked up at least 150 charges the last time we looked. So they would just straight send him to jail and prison. I always got the opportunity, to go to treatment. So I'd go to treatment, he'd get out, and he'd still be running and gunning, and, what I mean, I'd be getting calls in treatment telling me what he's doing. You know what I mean? So he really didn't get as many treatment stays as I did. But the last time that, really changed it to where we decided to go to treatment together. Because see, the treatment centers he went to has just been like faith-based. So they really didn't get into, the stuff that he really needed to. So the last time we went to treatment, we had just got a breaking and entering. And, we were staying in a home with no electric, no water. Um, it was cold because there was no heat. We had no car because it had got, took by the cops. We had no money. It also got took by the cops. So we just had absolutely nothing.
Where was your
And
kid at? The 12-year-old.
the 12-year-old, my grandmother has custody of him. She
Oh,
has
cool.
now for like 11 years. She does.
Okay, cool.
Um,
Go on. I was just curious. I didn't want to forget. Go ahead.
But so we end up, I mean, we was using, of course, ripping everybody off, doing just whatever we had to do. And then finally it just come to a point like, look, like we can't do this no more. You know what I mean? Like we didn't even know where we was going to eat. We just had to like go in grocery stores and just like steal food right off the counter because we didn't know what we was going to do. So, and then of course we were sitting there, detoxing. So that's when we made the choice, like, if we're going to detox and like really do it, like, let's go to a detox center. And so then we decided to go to the detox center. That's as far as we had planned. So we went to the detox center. But when we got to the detox center, we're like, you know what? Like, let's just go on. Let's go on to treatment. So from there, we was telling them, we want to get into treatment. I think we were like in there 5 days, and they said, this is the longest you can stay. We don't keep doing past 5 days. I'm like, okay, well, have you found us a bed anywhere? And they said, no, not yet. Well, then we're not leaving until you get me a bed, to go to treatment. Like, I am not walking out of here because when I walk out, I already know what's going to happen. And of course, they said, "Well, I'm sorry," but then I just threw the card up like, "Look, if you make me leave, I'm gonna go out and do something stupid." Like I already knew. Like I really don't like to throw it out there, but like I told him, like I will commit suicide. Like I am too my and I have had the previous an attempt. But I was to that point again. I was going to do it again if they would make me leave. Like at that point, I was just done. You know what I mean? Like not being able to
Yeah.
eat, shower, like any of that. Like I was just done. So we did stay a total of we went to the same detox center. We were able to stay for a total of 15 days, and they did get us into out inpatient. So then we went to inpatient.
They let you go together to the same place?
Yes, we went to the same place. It's called the
That's
Counseling Center in Portsmouth, Ohio. And you mean I went to the women's and he went to the men's. But we were there for like 3 months. And then after we come out from that, that's when I was telling you, like, we were doing really good. Um, and then we were living up where the rehab was. So we didn't know nobody, you know what I mean? So we were good.
yeah.
But we had found a job, and the job placed us right back where we're from. And old people started coming around. And that's whenever we had relapsed. And that first relapse, it lasted like a week, about a week. And then that's whenever I found out I was pregnant and still used. And then that's when I overdosed.
So when did you switch to heroin then from the pills? When did the pills stop working?
See, I was dabbling in with the heroin and the pills. So you mean like altogether, heroin's been like 16 years for me. But I really didn't hit it hardcore and put the pills down and just do the heroin until I was 23. But it switched.
How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 33.
Okay. Okay. So like 2011.
Yeah, that
Okay.
I was like dabbling,
So you
back
were
when it,
still taking the trips just to get the pills, just to sell the pills, just to make the money to buy the heroin.
yeah, and then I was to the point that I was mixing the pills with the heroin, like just doing a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
But full blown and really until I actually just came off the pills and just went straight to the heroin, I was like 23.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because I was curious because, usually, once you shoot it for the first time, like heroin, according to others, because you just don't want to do pills again. Like that's what I've been told, because like it's so funny. I was not afraid of needles. I never wanted to, because I have plenty of tattoos. I never wanted to do it myself. And,
Yeah.
and then my other question is, when did you know, like, you were like full blown, like, I'm addicted to this, but I don't care. I fucking need it. So whatever. I don't care. Did that ever happen to you where you were like, fuck it, like, I'm addicted, but I need this anyway, so I'm gonna keep doing it?
Yeah, I was like, I would probably say 24.
So you were already doing heroin at that point when you like had a realization, like, yeah, definitely an addict.
Yes, I just like my family would tell me like, you need to stop. You know what I mean? Like you weren't raised like this, like you got a son. And then like I that would sit there and play through my head, but then just the love for getting the high. You know what I mean? Everything else was just so much I hate to say it, but like it was just more powerful than me, more powerful than my child, more powerful than love I have for anybody. And then at that point, I caught my really bad case when I had went to prison, had sent me to prison. And then I turned around and caught the same charge that I went to prison for 3 more times.
What was
And
it?
I had went for possession of fentanyl, and then I had went for 7 forgeries and 2 thefts. And each of them charges kept putting me back in prison, back in prison. Um, and the reason why I say that it's bad is because like I was trying to avoid going to prison, and that's why I say like when I caught them for 3 original charges, I turned around not even 2 months later and caught 3 more of the exact same charge that I was out on bond for. So they
Hmm.
ended up sending me to prison for 2 different counties on the same charges. They sent me back to prison. I went to prison, and then I had got out for a year, and they sent me back again. So, really, when I was 23, that's whenever I knew that it was just bad. I didn't care what no one said. I just didn't give a crap anymore about anybody, like, what they told me, how they thought, how they felt. Like, I just wanted that next high, and I wasn't stopping until I got it. So,
That love
23,
is,
I just
yeah.
broke loose.
Yeah, that love is real though. Like I always say that, how the joke, not joke, but the saying, you have three loves of your life. Like that was my first love. Like seriously, like that, like, and I knew I was an addict a month in. A month in, like I had a conversation with myself.
And I was like, I know I need this. I know I want this. And I don't care what anyone says. This is going to happen because this makes me feel better than anyone's ever made me feel, you know? And so, like, I totally get that feeling because, like, I think that's also why I stuck with pills is because I loved it so much. And I was also, so I thought I was in control. You know, it was one of those lies that we tell ourselves, like, well, at least I'm in control of this one. And I know I'm going to lose control if I shoot dope. So at least I can fool everybody if I just stick to pills. So that was like my addict mindset of justification of this is okay. This is fine, you know. Now, did you get into meetings? Do you go to meetings? You know, when you got sober?
Yeah, we did attend like NA meetings, some AA meetings, and then we go to like the church. You mean because like we really like to put church in there. But since COVID has hit, um, not as much, just because like honestly, with my baby and then being pregnant again, like I'm really scared to get out. Like
Oh,
I caught
yeah.
like I caught a stomach virus. I mean, the stomach virus I was telling you about now. Like, I don't even know where I could have caught it from. And now, like, when I sit and think about, like, it trips me out. Like, if it's that easy to catch a stomach virus, like, how easy is it, just to catch the COVID? So really, like, but we do like online meetings through Zoom and stuff
Cool.
like that.
Yep.
And then, like, I still talk to my sponsor, and then I do therapy over the phone as well as counseling.
That's okay, yeah, because that was like what I was gonna say next is like that's the biggest thing that people always forget about is the therapy part of it, the counseling part, because like yeah, our problem was getting in trouble and the problem was the drugs and all that, but like really they were like solutions to problems. You know what I mean? Like on the outside they looked like they were the problem, but really we were trying to solve our problems with them. You know, they were the solutions. So then when you get sober, you have you if you don't go to therapy and you don't go to counseling, you don't like start doing that, work about what's inside of us and what made us want to use, that usually causes relapses. Because you did you go this hard when you got sober from the other treatment centers? Like when you got out, did you start go right into counseling before like that, or this is the first time you're doing an honest effort?
Um, I was just half button everything, to be honest with you. I would
Yeah.
just do enough to keep the probation officers off of me. Like when I would go to group, I would just dread it. I would tell them whatever they wanted to hear so I can get in and get out because I have more important things to do.
Yep.
Honestly, that's pretty much how my whole recovery has went, except for these last 2 years. I've honestly gave it everything. You know what I mean? Like if I have a problem, I'm talking about it. You mean if I feel some kind of type of way, you're gonna know. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying. Like I have struggled so much before, and it's like every time I relapse, it gets worse so much faster. I get worse off so much faster. I lose everything faster. So, like I do not want to go back down that again. Like there's no way. So,
Yeah,
if I'm
those
feeling
withdrawals
anything,
don't. Yeah, they don't go anywhere. Like I had been clean off opiates for 3 plus years when I just had my gallbladder removed, and they even though I told them not to, they shot me with fentanyl while I was under, and I woke up high, and I knew I was high, and my body went into immediate withdrawal, acute withdrawal right away. I was vomiting for 18 straight hours, and it was withdrawal. It wasn't reaction from the surgery. It was withdrawal. So even though I was clean 3 plus years, putting opiates in my body within a half an hour, vomiting for 18 straight hours.
wow, that's
So I
crazy.
I know, and I never even did fentanyl, and I still it was just the opiates that caused it. And now like that makes me even more scared to ever go back out again because I know that they press 30s with fentanyl now. So I could go out and I could die on a relapse just like my yesterday was my friend's what he would have been 35, and him and I got sober at the same time. He went to Florida, I went to Cali, and then we would talk all the time, and we both came back to Jersey area, and within a month he went to rehab, and or not rehab, he went on a relapse and died on his relapse. It's just that easy, and because we don't have the tolerance that we used to have.
No, most
So,
definitely.
and obviously the fentanyl is getting more and more powerful, and they're getting more and more. Yeah, just put a little more in there. Who cares? Put a little more, like. So it's so dangerous out there. Now, you said you've been arrested how many times?
Altogether, I've been arrested like 10 times.
10. Now, what was like? I'm trying to think. What was like the most like? I don't want to say the craziest one, but like, were they all theft or all possessions?
I've had breaking and entering, possession, um, receiving stolen property, theft, forgery, and then, just like your, um, possession of drug abuse
Yeah.
instruments.
Yeah, it
So, like,
happened.
really nothing, like, really too crazy,
That's good.
but, um, the situations that led up to it is a different story.
What do you
But,
mean?
just like some of the situations that led up, like, to us, like, getting arrested, you know what I mean? Like, I should have gotten in trouble for so much more, so much
Uh,
more. So, like, I'm thanking God, every day that mine has just been, just like felony, 4s and felony 5s.
yeah.
Um,
Are
it
you
sh
like
it should be
done with
so
the
much
court
more.
system? Are you done with the
Um,
court? Are you on probation right now, or?
September 7th, I will get off of felony probation. I have not been off probation since 2010 now. I have not been off. I think I'll make it, maybe a month or 2, and then I'm right back on again.
That's amazing. That
So so excited.
Now, how's the relationship with a 12-year-old since like you're been clean 2 years? Do you get to see him?
Yes, I get to see him, honestly, as much as I want to. I mean, like, he is autistic, so after school, he goes with his aide. His aide takes him and does just different stuff.
Hmm.
So, in the evenings, I go get to see him, or, the weekends, I get to see him, as much as I want to on the weekends. So, like, it's still, like, it's a good relationship.
Good.
I mean, he has questions, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like, why does his brother get to go home and he don't? And you know what I mean? So,
that makes sense. I mean, does he live with your grandma still, or does he live in assisted living?
no, he lives with my grandmother.
Oh, okay.
We lost custody to my grandmother whenever we was doing the Florida running.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
Believe it or not, she worked at Children's Services. So
That was
she
easy
had
for
her,
her.
yeah, she had her
We'll
hand
see.
in everything. So,
She what?
I said she had her hand in a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So it was really easy for her, to actually come in and take him, which, I blamed her for years. I couldn't stand her for years, but, God's honest truth is I sat there and would tell myself, if I wouldn't have lost him, I would have straightened up. But I don't think that's the truth because the pain pills in the Florida, just the rush and the adrenaline of everything going on.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
that car ride home every single time must have been the happiest car ride every single time. If I could, I know my car rides home from Jersey, were always good car rides back to Pennsylvania. Every time I would go get my stuff, and I would finally, I had my ritual of what I did, of how I would use them and how I would sniff them while I would drive. That was safe but also very effective because like I broke so many CD cases in my day. You know what I mean? Trying to do them while
yeah,
driving, that I started putting them inside of a full straw and just like bent in half and just like chewing the straw and just like, and so I would just like drop four in there and just have, slam back 120 milligrams and then have a nice 2 hour car ride with the music blasted, my dog in the back seat with me because she took the rides, and just chain smoking on my way back and just cruising. So I always knew they were good car rides for me. I can imagine 20-hour car ride. You're just cruising along smiling.
I'll tell you, on the way down there was the longest trip of my life. But on the way back, like, my God, like, I wake up and be like, well, where are we at? You know what I mean? Like, from just being so intoxicated from them.
Hmm.
Hey, we're only halfway home and it feels like we only left 2 hours ago. So, no, the car rides home were so much faster and so much better than what they were on the way down.
On the way
There's-
down, did you guys have like I had a bag that I specifically, not one bag, but like I always had a bag ready for bile because I was constantly like throwing up bile on my ways to Jersey, on my drives to Jersey. I always had to like I'll be stuck in traffic in Philly or something like that, waiting to go over the bridge to see my dude, and like I would have to like get sick or at least try to vomit into this bag while I'm stuck in traffic so that I could like push through to get there, to get to the destination. Did you have that too, where you had like,
Yeah, and
preparedness?
yeah, pretty much, yeah. Like some of it, you know what I mean? Like I hated methadone at the time. Like I hated it. But, you know what I mean? Like the 30s were so scarce that I mean, I would take methadone, morphine, just whatever I could to tide me off until I got there. And then, you mean like I told you, like all the, like different people we took. And then I had somebody down in Florida that I was getting them off the street for $8. So as long as I had something to tie me off until I got to Florida, then when I got to Florida and every day that you mean like the day I got there and every day on, I knew I was good. So sometimes, I mean, I would just like have to take just different stuff. Some days it'd be nothing, you know what I mean, on the way down there. And it was a
Yeah.
dreadful ride.
Yeah, because you want to
Very
always,
dreadful.
I would always like try to like save even a half of a 30. Even if it was just like a 30 cut in half, if I could just like do that before I would go in the car, that would at least withstand the next 2 hours before I would get there. But that was like what I would want to do. That was never really the case. Most of
Yeah.
the times it was I'm driving keeled over, holding my stomach because it just hurt so bad. And you are literally the only person I know that so far, and I've talked to a lot of people that has driven, and you just like, you're like, oh, I see your 2 hours. That's cute. We did 22, because
Yeah.
I knew those drives, and except for I did it with my dog, I did it with my puppy. So at least like you had somebody to like, switch off with. You guys take turns, or did like he drive?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
There
good.
would be, I don't know, sometimes there would be three of us to four to five, you know what I mean? Because sometimes we had people that, like three of us had doctor days all on the same day. So sometimes there would be more of us. I mean, I can remember taking a van, putting a blow up mattress in the back and sleeping on the way down there.
That
Eh,
makes more sense. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think the longest, actually, I can't think of a long drive I did. I didn't do it personally. I was living in Massachusetts at the time because I was escaping. Like I moved all the time in my addiction, and I took a bus from where I was living outside of Rhode Island up to Boston at 4 in the morning, and then I took a bus from there to New York City. Then I had about to walk about a mile to get on another bus to take me down to Philly. Then my buddy picked me up, took me to my doctor, got the script, filled it, and then went to his house to go start getting high. Unfortunately, we didn't know we were being followed by a dude that I owed money to. That he was expecting
no.
me to be in town, expecting me to be at the doctor's because he knows where I was going to the doctor's because I used to doctor shop with him because he was like he was one of those like higher up dudes that like never did them but sold a lot, like kind of those kind of guys that like spend his time at the gym all day long kind of guy. And he showed up there with two guys bigger than him, and we're like, fuck. So like I'm hiding in the closet like Anne Frank, you know what I mean? Like I'm not here, and he finally gets them out of there, but they're like, well, we're gonna be waiting right here on the corner for him because we know he's in there. And so I just took my shit, and this was before like Ubers, and I went out one of the side windows, and like my fat ass like squeezing out of there, like, and I called a cab, and they meet me at the place across the street, the laundromat. They took me over to Philly. Immediately got back onto the next bus to New York, the next bus to Boston, and then the next bus to where I was living at the time in New Bedford. And it was a total 24-hour trip, between going there, going to the doctors, and I just remember it was pouring rain in New York City at night when I was transferring buses because there was a mile walk between the transfer, and I was so hot. I was getting 120 bars and 120 30s each month. That's why you're 1800. You're like, oh, you're cute with 120. I get, you know. But yeah, I was getting 120 of each. So by the time I got in the pouring rain and walking, I didn't give a shit. I had like 3 bars in me, like 930s in me. There was no
Right.
touch. You know what
Me
I mean?
too.
Like I didn't give a shit about the rain. Like I was so untouchable at that point. But then I ended up getting arrested, almost arrested. Got in trouble. Xanax makes me steal. I
Yeah,
don't
me too.
I don't know, like Percocets and Oxys. I never like. I would get like cool ideas, like, oh, like I'm gonna do this like kind of con, or I'm gonna con this company out of money, you know what I mean? And find ways to manipulate numbers like when I was on Oxy and, like do financial shit like, to get money. But then when I was on Xanax, I just had no inhibitions. I would just like steal, not even know I was stealing because I'd be blacked out, go to the pawn shop, get arrested. Every time I got arrested for stealing, it was always Xanax. Always.
Yeah, I have the same problem. Yeah.
Okay.
And then more, and then more, but yeah, like I just say, like my husband could not stand me on him. Like it was just horrible. But yeah, I actually got him thrown in jail for me stealing.
Can I hear about that? What
Um,
happened?
so we had just came back from Florida, and of course he had felony warrants out, and we were going to the store, like just as soon as you walk out the hotel door, there's like a Dollar General. So he told me, Tori, he said, do not be going over here and stealing. He said, we have like $5,000 in our pocket. He said, don't do it. I'm like, oh yeah, I know, I'm cool. I go over there and I just start stealing dumb stuff like um tweezers and fingernail polish and just dumb stuff. Just like I get klepto on them. And next thing I know, we're getting ready to walk out, and here comes a cop walking in. Well, we have all these pills on us from Florida, like 4 bottles, like 30s, like clear to the top of the lid, 4 bottles
Yeah,
between, the 30s and the 15s and stuff. And of course, they're out of state bottles, and we're known very well, with the cops. So I had no idea what the hell we were going to do. He had a warrant. I knew it, but Xanax don't care. So they walk in and they would walk us outside, and they said, like, what's going on? We got a complaint, that you're in here stealing. So my husband's like, look, I'll go in and pay for all the stuff that she took. And he's like, well, you got a warrant. He's like, yeah, I do. So he goes back in there and pays for everything, and then just takes the 4 pill bottles and shoves them down inside of the bag while he's in there, and walks out and hands me the bag. So we never got searched or nothing like that. Thank God. But he
that's
went to
good.
jail, and he was so mad because after he got out, which was like maybe 5 days later, I had done got robbed, all the pills, all the money, everything was gone. So not only did I put him in jail, but I lost absolutely everything, and he was sick when he came out.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say because
it was
like
bad.
sometimes like if he was going to prison, it would be easier for him to stay high. But if you're going to jail, it's a lot harder because like the drugs aren't flowing around like the holding cell. You know what I mean? But when you go to prison, then yeah, you can find drugs pretty easily. But the holding cell or like jail or whatever you want to call it for a couple days to dry out, you're not really getting connections to like stay high the entire time, right? Is that what
Y-
you mean?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you were saying before he was running and gunning when he was like arrested. So I assume he meant like because he was in prison, so it was easy for him to stay high in prison, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely more so than jail. And
Yeah.
really here in Ohio, kind of too depends on what jail you're in, because like a lot of them now got the scanners, but a lot of them still don't.
Hmm.
And one of our local jails actually, I think this last past year, they've had like 5 overdose deaths in the jail because of not having a scanner. Yeah, like people just not being, come to their cell and just not being responsive, and then later find out that it was an overdose.
Yeah, and let's be real, and the guards aren't like they don't care to check on the addicts who are like in there. They kind of like they want to see us go. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's how I feel. Like I've always felt that way. Like we're definitely like, oh, just let him go through it. He brought that on himself. That's his fault. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And then I will tell you, like going back to my husband and the county jail I was telling you about, he like this is how much they don't care. I mean, it kind of is his fault though in a way. But so like the last time we went to jail, he was trying to figure out a way to get out, to bond me out because the situation, that got us into that. I told him, I don't want to do it. I'm afraid we're going to go to the jail. I'm tired of going to jail. I don't want to be sick. Because at that point we were like Oh my God, we were hardcore in it. We were into doing we were doing heroin and meth like really bad together, speedballing. And we were up to using like 4 grams a day between us both of heroin. So like there was no way I was going to jail. So this is the last charge, that we had caught, and it was the breaking and entering. I told him I
So
was like, I don't want to
so what?
go
Yeah, tell
ahead.
me about the break. What happened? Like, can you tell me about the breaking and entering? Like, what happened? Like, where you were breaking and all that?
So it was an abandoned house, and we were just broke and was going to go into the abandoned house to see like take the copper, just the hard up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody, his cousin was with us as well, and I was like, like I don't want to do it. I'm just going to sit in the car. You guys go. I got a bad feeling. Well, of course they didn't listen to me. Um, I mean, messed up. And we get out and we go up there, and somebody had passed, seen us there, called the cops. Me and my husband was actually in the house, and his cousin was outside, and there was cops, and he didn't scream or let us know that there was cops. He just took off running and left us. So the cops come in with their guns drawn, and we went to jail. And like I said, like I told him, like I didn't want to do it from the get go. I had a bad feeling about it. Like we'll figure out something else. And no, we got in there and got in trouble. So he was in there trying to figure out a way to get out. So, and there's more drugs in the men's pod than the females. Um, so he was in there using and actually paid somebody um to slam his finger in the door, the jail cell. He thought it'd be a good idea. They break it, he get out. Well, they slammed it a little too hard and cut it completely off. Yes. Cut his finger completely off, like back to the knuckle.
Which
And
one?
all
I'm like looking at my hands. Which
it
one?
would be his right pinky.
Okay. At least he was smart about which hand he was having the guy slam. At
Yeah,
least he wasn't like, yeah, slam my finger, please.
he said it
You
was
know?
just supposed to have been it was just supposed to have broke it.
Yeah.
Well, he said the next thing he knew, like he felt it burn and he looked down and just blood going everywhere. They came in, someone hit the box, and they came in, and the COs had to pick his finger up off the floor, and they took him out to the hospital. They gave him, a shot of fentanyl, and they sent him back. And here he thought he was going to get out. No, they just put him down in the suicide cell, gave him ibuprofen, and he had to stay there.
Did they
Needless to say,
reattach the finger?
no, they threw it away. There was nothing they
They,
could do. They threw
okay.
it away.
Well, at least it's a pinky again. At least it's his pinky. But still.
I was like, what made you think that you was even going to get out for that? He said, because it's worked before, and for other people. And I'm like, well, and what's crazy is like 2 days after it had happened, we had went to court and I got out, and I had bonded him out. I bonded him out in less than 12 hours later.
Yeah. So if he just would
He
have been
lost it for
patient.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much.
I mean, it goes to show you that like patience really is a virtue, but we don't know how to be patient when we're in addiction because that's why you shoot your heroin because you want it right now. Like we did
Yeah.
everything because we wanted it right now. We didn't want to wait for shit. So that would make sense that he would feel that way of just be like, no, just I got to get out of here, cut it off, like hurt me. You know,
Yeah, it's insane.
it, it,
Insane.
re- it really is. I mean, the good thing is though is that you can look back on it and know that just because it happened doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. You don't discount yourself because it just lessons that you learn to be able to help others. Because that's the only thing we can do with our past. Traumas and past things that we did is the only way to live with it is to talk about it and help others with it. Because if you hold it in and you try to squish it down and say it didn't happen, you're gonna get high again.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another thing, like a lot of people, like when you go to treatment and stuff, you hear a lot of people saying, well, I can't believe my addiction took me here, and my addiction made me do this. And I always tell people, listen, anything that you thought about doing or done, I've probably done it or thought about it. Like I go back and like we'll talk about it. Like the stuff that our addiction has made us do is just like insane. Like so insane. Like he has stole semi trucks. and wrecked them.
Like, is that what the stolen goods was?
Yeah,
He
it,
received
he
received. Go ahead,
78.
tell me.
There was 78 skids of Marlboro cigarettes in the back of a semi, and he had the bright idea that we're gonna go steal this semi and sell the cigarettes. Well, he decided to whatever made him decide he could drive one. I don't know. Just because he's roading them don't mean he could drive one. But he did, and he took it on a back road and wrecked it in a creek and got picked up for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe he forgot he hits a double clutch, and this isn't just driving like a regular stick shift. And I mean, I haven't seen somebody steal cigarettes out of the back of a truck like that since like Goodfellas in the 60s.
Yeah,
Like,
like I said, it's been insane. Like when I think back about it, like I can laugh about it, but
it's all you can do, really. Honestly, if you don't laugh at it, then it's a waste. You have to be able like to laugh at that. Like when you go, people don't realize that in AA meetings, there's a lot of laughter, and all that laughter is at like our past. Like people sit in a meeting and they tell a story, and then he starts laughing or she starts laughing at herself. It's okay to laugh at our past, because if you don't, then it's just going to make you miserable to think about it.
yeah, and and really when I think about it, like I'm glad I've been through what I've been through. You know what I mean? Because like I said, when people think, you know what I mean, like I cannot believe I'm thinking this or I cannot believe I've done that. Like honestly, I can honestly sit here and say there's almost nothing that I have not done, in addiction. Like when people tell me stuff, I'm like, okay, well, that's not that bad. Listen to mine. And they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, you know what I mean? So, like, you ain't got to worry about being judged.
Yeah,
But it just
that
gives me, the way I look at it, it just gives me experience. And that way I can help somebody else with it. Like, I take all of it, like you were saying, and I turn it to a positive. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, I don't feel like I feel like I was like one of the worst addicts, that there was. That's just, how I feel about myself. So when somebody, needs someone to talk to or something, like it's so much easier for me just to be like, hey, look, listen, you know what I mean? Like I've done so much worse. You're definitely going to get past this point. So I just thank God for the experience that I do have from it. Even
yeah,
though it
and
was dreadful
it's not our
during.
whole entire lives. You know what I mean? Like we can live a full life now and then look back and be like, oh yeah, that was a portion of my life. And that portion of my life gave me life lessons to last me for the rest of my life, to help me navigate and help others for the rest of my life. You could be in your 50s and then be 20 years clean, and then being able to help somebody being that, and you're like that far away, but still you're like, yeah, I spent 15 years doing this, that, this, and that. And then for the last 20 years, I've been doing this, and it's possible to get out of that. So there's a lot of strength and hope in like our fuck ups, in our past. And
Most
that's
definitely.
and but you have to be positive about it, because when you're negative about it, you're taking it out on yourself, and it never ends well. I mean, we both know that. Like, I'm sure you said the one time you had 8 months clean.
I've had up to 2.2 years clean. Not this time, but it was back in 2014. I'd had almost around about 2 years, and my grandpa had passed. And, I did a lot of dirt to him and didn't get to apologize. And then me and my husband was like on this separation, and he got ran over by a drunk driver. He was on a bike, and a drunk driver hit him and left him. Um, so I was coming home one day after work and walked past a bar I was in Columbus, Ohio, um, in the ghetto, if you would call it.
I've been
And
to
I was,
Columbus. I know exactly that. I can almost envision the area that you're talking about, because I was coming back from, ironically enough, Ann Arbor, because my brother's a diehard Michigan fan and we were seeing a game, and we were starving, and the place that we happened to pull off the highway was the ghetto of Columbus, because they almost didn't want to serve us. We were going through a drive-through and they're like, "Do you know where you're at, right? You know what you're wearing here?" Because he was wearing his Michigan jersey at the drive-through, and they almost didn't want to give us food because they're like they were that like upset that we were in Ohio State country, wearing Michigan blue. But not what we were in the ghetto though, so I can envision what you're describing. So okay, he was
Yeah, it
in.
was good.
No, I was repeating. He was in the ghetto.
Um, okay, so no, my husband was in Chillicothe when this happened. I was living in Columbus. I had just got out of like transitional living and I was up in Columbus. And see, my grandpa had died. And then my husband got hit like a week later. And me and my husband was not on good terms at that time because I was clean and he was not. Um, so I said an hour before he got hit, I told him, like, I hate you and I don't want to talk to you again. Like, I'm tired of you hurting me. You know what I mean? Like, leave me alone. And then an hour later, he gets ran over and they didn't know if he was going to make it. He had actually died 3 times between Chillicothe Hospital and then getting life flighted to Columbus. He had died on him 3 times. So, there was that regret there, not knowing if I was going to get to tell him, that I'm sorry or whatever. You know what I mean? Obviously, I still loved him, but it just, the hurt pushed me away. Um, so I was walking by the bar, right after I found out about my husband. And then my grandpa, like I said, the week prior, I went in and took a drink, then took a couple more. And then before I know it, I'm out walking in the streets of Columbus looking for heroin. Um, and I did find it.
I
And
was
then
gonna
right there
say
sent me into a total spiral downhill again.
that's all it took was one, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and it was the drinks that was
The
like,
drinks that started it.
and you're because in my full blown opinion, alcohol is the gateway drug. I firmly don't believe that cannabis is a gateway drug. I honestly use cannabis in my recovery, and I have been since day one. I went to a rehab in California called High Sobriety that actually teaches you how to change your relationship with cannabis and teaches you how to use it as a way to get off of opiates. So that's the rehab. Like, I don't even smoke. Like, I don't smoke. I just, I take my capsule with my blood pressure, and now I actually only take a capsule at night to help me with my insomnia. And it actually gets me through the entire day. So like, I don't like to get high right away. I don't even get high. You know what I mean? But I don't want it instant because that was before JD. Now I
Right.
like it to settle in and actually use it as a medicine. So I, change my relationship. But alcohol, inhibition's gone. You know what I mean? That's when
Yeah, most
you
definitely.
can talk yourself into some dumb shit, because even just driving, if I'm driving on cannabis, I am the safest Mr. Magoo driver in the world. I am letting people go at four-way stops when it's my turn. You know what I mean? Like, I'm extra
Right.
cautious. But alcohol, you are only person on the road. Get out of my way. So like, alcohol is definitely the gateway in my opinion, so that makes total sense. So you'd have a few drinks and be like, this isn't enough. I know what'll be enough.
Yeah. See, when I walk past, I'm like, well, I'm just going to take one. Just one drink will calm my nerves. And then after I felt that feeling of that one, and then it ended up turning into three. And then after that three, I wanted more. Like,
that warmth
yeah.
that warmth, right? once you
Yeah. And
once you get
then
that warmth, you gotta chase it.
that's what sent me into a downhill spiral. My husband, was in a hospital in ICU for a while. Then he got, sent to another part of the hospital, where he was trying to recover, and the pain meds they were giving him wasn't enough. So,
Because you had a high tolerance.
me being me, with him, because I do anything for him, I go out, start copping him pills, taking him heroin back into the hospital. Not even, not even worrying if they're going to do a blood test and find out and know that it's me coming every day. You know what I mean? Because he came
Yeah.
in there without it in his system. He's been in there for some time without it in his system, and here I'm taking it back to him. So I'm out there copping all that. And then I go to an opportunity presented itself to where I could get $3,000 to go cash some fake checks. So I make it through the first two banks. I make it to the third bank. Third bank, I hear handcuffs. As soon as I turn around, I heard them jingling as I walked through the door. I turn around and there is 4 cops. Um, I was just cashing the third one. The bank just held me there, pretty much just distract me. So, needless to say, I walked away with no money. My ride left me, and I went to jail, and I went to prison on that charge too.
How long did you have to do for that one?
That one was 15 months.
15 months.
Yes.
But you were able to like stay high while you were in there, or were you
No.
clean? You were
No.
clean while in there.
In prison?
Yeah.
Yes. I think like really the only thing in prison was like a fexer. So
Okay.
really, and women like I mean, I guess there was, but like when I went to prison, like I was just trying to like stay straight. You know what I mean? Like I really wanted it to get together. So while I'm in there and I got authority over me, I'm cool. But as soon as I got out and I ain't got that, that's when I go crazy
Off the
again.
rails again. Yep.
Yeah, if I
That
ain't
makes
got
sense.
authority, I go crazy.
That makes sense. But at least now, like, you have, like, it sounds like you have, like, a nice regimen. Like, you have what you do and your husband, and you guys work together, and to stay, now you're working hard to stay sober.
Yes, most definitely. I have accomplished to get my I do have my peer recovery support certification, and I've had my CDCA, all my courses done since like February of this year, but because of felony probation, we can't work on it or apply for it. So I get off on September 7th, so I'll be able to do that, and then I start college in January. I'm going back to get my master's in social working. So, like, I want to dedicate the rest of my life to helping others.
I'm going to mark this down now. I'm going to release this on the 7th to celebrate you being off.
Thank
So
you.
I'm gonna yeah hold it and then release it on that day. This way you can have like your story out here like this, on a day that you're off your charges and you're good to go and you're free. So I just marked it down to releases on the 7th for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think I'm doing my birthday's the 29th. So like I'm doing my story on the 29th. So, I think it's good to like find dates like that to like celebrate people, on certain days whenever I can, especially during this month. So that's amazing, especially the peer counseling. People don't realize, or if you don't know what peer counseling is, it's, talking to somebody who's been in it. And, in our meeting center, we have a bunch of people that come to our meetings that are peer counselors. And, it's not therapy and it's not a therapist, but it's definitely like somebody strong to talk to. It's like talking to a therapist, but not getting the book answers and getting the real answers of what experienced answers.
Yes, and I wish when I was getting clean, I would have knew more about peer supporters, but
I
of
didn't
course
know
I
that
didn't.
existed. Yeah.
No, because I wish I would have had someone like that because I'm always afraid, like, because all the people I talk to, like the therapists and stuff, like they know my PO. Like, if I tell them something, I'm afraid, hey, they're gonna go back and tell my PO. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I didn't want to be judged from people that don't do drugs, never has done drugs. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
want to talk to someone that's real, like that. You know what I'm thinking. You know how I'm feeling. Like that is just. And
I
I want the raw answer. You know what I mean? Like I don't want you to beat around the bush. Like give it to me raw. What is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny when I was in rehab, I got so into therapy that like I had two therapists and then I was like I want a third. And this time there was a therapist that worked there that was also in recovery and he was from Jersey like I was. So I was like he didn't have enough room for me, but I figured I'm just going to have conversations with him and just ask him the same shit that I ask my therapist and then get like the addict perspective of it. But like I didn't know peer counseling was a thing. I wish I knew. Like, hey, anyone's listening still in addiction, peer counseling is amazing. It is you can talk to people like us. Like I'm not a peer counselor. I'm thinking about working towards it, everything I'm doing here. I'm basically a peer counselor. I mean, people come and talk to me all day long for meetings and I give them my perspective and my experiences on, when I give advice and if I don't know something, I say, "Oh, I can't speak to that. I've never done that, or I've never seen that." But anytime that somebody comes to me with a problem, my answers always start with, "Well, there's one time I did, or there's one time I know someone who did." Because it's important that people don't have to feel alone because we do fucked up shit. We were not angels. And the more that we know that other people weren't angels like us, you can feel more comfortable about opening up and you can feel more comfortable about accepting your past.
Yes, and I tell everybody, I don't have to know you. You ain't got to be in the same state. I don't care. Like, if anybody needs to talk, you mean, like, I'm always here to talk to people. You know what I mean? I always try to put that out everywhere I go.
Yeah, that's amazing because it's so important that even if it's like something as little as Facebook Messenger, like somebody messaged we run a nonprofit mental health meeting center, and somebody from like Texas messaged it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I need to talk. And it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, like on a Saturday. And like, I'm an insomniac. Like, legitimate, like, I have insomnia. And I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. You want to text? And they're like, can I call? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. She called and we talked for like an hour, and I helped her like from not doing coke again for the rest of the night. And, and I made her laugh, and I took her mind off things, and I related to her. And she hung up feeling a lot better about the conversation and feeling a lot better about what she was doing. She was just alone and had no one to talk to. And that's important. Like, if I'm available, I'm going to talk. I enjoy talking, but also like I did all my shit, and I'm not going to let it sit in vain. I'm going to use it to help others feel better about things, you know, and because it's important that we are transparent about our past, because others are in it right now and dying at record paces, and they are feeling too uncomfortable to say I need help or no one's going to understand me.
Most definitely. I definitely agree.
So I know, and that's awesome. And if somebody wants to, I'm going to post this again. Today's the 7th. If you're watching this is when I'm posting it. And, I'm just so happy that you're at where you're at right now, because I mean, all those, 5 years of doing those trips. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yes. 5 years.
I did my trips for 3 years, and not even, maybe even 2 years. So 5 years. God bless you. I'm glad to see you still sitting there. And I mean, your before and after is just amazing, by the way. What caught my attention originally when the opiate group, the before and after, the transformation. Like, you're doing amazing. Like,
Thank you.
you don't barely even look like the same person. I think it's important for people to see that like we can recover and we can feel better again. We can look better again. We can have children again. And you can have a life again. So just because we fucked up in our teens and our 20s or whatever, it doesn't mean we can't have the rest of our lives ahead of us to do good and help others with our experiences. So thank you again for taking the time to sit and talk for a little bit. I know it's not the best time with you feeling good, but like I said, and now I know even more, we've definitely been sicker and done worse things.
Most definitely.
So
And
I'm glad.
thank you
Yeah.
for letting me talk.
Oh, of course. I'm glad to see that like you're sick but doing good now when you're sick. So that's good.
Right.
So feel better, get hydrated, get some rest, do what you gotta do, take care of your husband, take care of your dad. And I'll talk to you soon. I'll let you know when this is up.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
All
Thank you, Tori. Have a good day.
right. You too,
All right.
hon.
Bye
Bye.
bye.